which is you can find at the bottom toolbar on your screen to ask questions or just to give John a pat on the back or two. That's an easy way to get your questions to us, which we'll then read off as many as we can later on. You'll be muted throughout the video so that we can focus on John and this amazing film. And the chat is the only way that we'll see your questions. So please do put them in there. We will also be sending out a link to this video after the performance. So if you're experiencing technical difficulties or anything like that, we will make sure that you get to see this. Now, John Roberts has been an advocate for the Pine and the Popple rivers for a long time. That's how I met him. His dogged work on behalf of those rivers and for River Alliance of Wisconsin. When we met, I didn't know that he was also an explorer. John, we are so happy to show the world about this special place, Breakwater Falls, today. Tell us about how this film came to be, and then we'll get to the movie.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome. Video release day is here. I am so pleased that the video and this event have come together in such a grand way to say Breakwater Falls is a place that Wisconsin should know about. So thank you, River Alliance. As producer of the video and in general a nonstop advocate of Breakwater Falls, this is kind of a big day for me. Also adding to the joy of this video release event, I'm sure my wife, who did a super job of narrating at the start and the end of the video, and my son, who did just a dazzling bit of professional magic with his audio edits of the video, have both joined in today. And perhaps even Laurel Primo, whose extraordinary new album, Iron Trios, I was fortunate enough to be able to use for the music track of the video, and she may be linked in. Anyway, thank you all who helped make this video possible. So I've got a lot to celebrate, and I am celebrating. I got my party shirt on and my rivers. My Wild Rivers, Florence, Wisconsin hat on, and I got my Breakwater Falls one of a kind Breakwater Falls beverage cup full. I'm totally ready to let it roll and let it explain itself. We'll get to see it, and then we can talk about Q&A later. But I hope you enjoy the video, and very much hope that when you're traveling north again, that you too will get to experience your own personal adventure of discovery for the Wisconsin's 6th largest waterfall, Breakwater Falls.
Well, John, thank you for bringing this to us, and we'll just get to the fun. Without further ado, Breakwater Falls, Wisconsin's secret waterfall.
In the north, in the depths of the north woods of Wisconsin, hidden in the seemingly endless reach of forest and muskeg of this northeast Wisconsin borderland, there are wild places that have remained unknown. This is the land of wild rivers. In the heart of Florence County, 2 rivers were set aside by law for the chance for you to still experience wildness. Along the length of these rivers, there remain many places worthy of personal discovery, but one remained hidden to almost all. Do you know where the 6th largest waterfall in Wisconsin is? Have you ever heard of Breakwater Falls?
Sadly, no. I had absolutely no idea.
I had no clue what was down there, really.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I could pinpoint it.
No, I don't do geography at all.
I'm not familiar with that one.
No.
I don't know either.
Can you imagine, in this day and age, there exists anywhere in Wisconsin, or anywhere, that there exists a hidden, virtually unknown, 60-foot waterfall just waiting to be discovered? Well, that was it. That was the first time I saw the place. I didn't know what was down there. The portage goes around it, the trail goes around it, the road goes around it, and everybody just went around it. It wasn't on the map. There weren't any signs. This is how it was the first time. I wondered what the river looked like down there in the gorge, and I went exploring. What an incredible find that day. At first, I thought I was the only one who hadn't known what was there, but it turns out I wasn't. No one really knew. After 90 years of not being on the map, no one really remembered it was down there. The 6th largest waterfall in Wisconsin had vanished. So now, yes, I certainly do know where Breakwater Falls is, and I go there often. I've been a student of this falls and its gorge, as I've been a decades-long student and advocate for the pine and the popple and the wild rivers in general, but for sure, for Breakwater Falls. To fully understand the impressive size of Breakwater Falls, you have to put it in context. If you've seen LaSalle Falls and the Pine River with its 22-foot drop, then, in your mind, place it side by side with the 60 feet of drops through Breakwater Falls, so that in all, in just 2.5 miles of the Pine, from the top of LaSalle Falls, down the rapids of LaSalle Gorge, over Breakwater Falls, 3 drops, boom, 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 then down the rapids of Breakwater Gorge, the river drops 150 feet. It's an amazing section of river, very dramatic, and there's nothing else like it. Since that very first day of my hike down into the gorge to see what perhaps might be there, I've found many ways to show people this hidden place. A hike into Breakwater Falls is never just a hike. You never know. There are many faces to Breakwater. You may get there on a day when the water is gentle and beautifully dropping over rock, inviting you in to sit a little closer or stay a little longer. Or you may get there on the day when the pounding sounds of great volumes of water will keep you back from the edge with eyes wide open. The evening is different than the morning. There is winter, and the south side and the north side and the delicately beautiful back channel waterfalls. And the oh my God place is the top of the high, high bluff and the mega big boulder that buttresses the river's entrance into the gorge. And then that overlook, that massive block of rock that you get out onto to see the falls, and it's not a look from the shore. You go out there and you're out there on this block of rock and the river is on this side and that side and out in front and all around you. There are indeed many faces to Breakwater, but to a select few who have honed the high art of safe passage through wild and turbulent waters, the way to see it is right down the river. The 3 big drops of Breakwater Falls are rated class 4 to 5, way, way beyond my ability. I did, however, have a chance to host a team of expert kayakers as they ran the falls, all 3 drops at 450 CFS. It was really exciting to see. One guy, he came down through the big rapids, then shroom, airborne right off the edge of the big drop. Very, very exciting. Mostly, I take my canoe down the hill from the portage trail to the water's edge and put in just below the falls, and then run the 1/3 mile of class 2 to 3 gorge rapids. I've done it many, many, many times from 300 to 900 CFS. Of course, the bigger the flow, the bigger the waves get, and they can get pretty intense. The flowing water is but part of the experience of going to see Breakwater Falls. Whenever you spend time there, you will soon become aware that it is not just the river that captivates your attention. It's the interaction between water and rock, between the unceasing flow of water and that underlying, immovable, deep-seated bedrock that draws your attention. The rock is an equal partner in how you see the beauty of the falls, but dig a little deeper and it becomes more. You'll find that the rock, on its own, contains a staggeringly powerful story. Geologists say that the bedrock of Breakwater Falls is 2 billion years old. It's some of the oldest bedrock of our continent. The Superior Continental Plate, that massive Canadian shield of rock, was the foundational plate onto which all other bedrock plates that formed our state and nation eventually became attached. One of the very earliest additions was the Marshfield Plate. Breakwater Falls tells a story of early Earth continental collision where the Marshfield Plate ground up against the Superior Plate and pushed up a giant mountain range with volcanic eruptions and intense metamorphic heating and twisting of everything. The rock you stand on at Breakwater Falls is the remnant roots of this once mighty mountain range. And the Niagara Fault Zone that passes through Breakwater Falls marks the lines of early Earth-continental collision that began the bedrock formation which underlies our state and our nation. Breakwater Falls is the 6th largest waterfall in Wisconsin. It's in northeast Wisconsin, in the heart of Florence County. I like that I've gotten to know it well just by being there, by hiking around, exploring, seeing its many faces in all seasons at high water and low, and it's the best way. Just go there. You can go on the north side or the south side. They're both good, quite different experiences, but I'd suggest going on the south side for starters. It's got great overlooks of all 3 drops and the Gorge Trail too. So park your car and follow the signs and they'll take you through a magical land where waves of mist come off the falls. So the mosses grow thick and there's lots of boreal plants, those plants that thrive in the north. Little berries and delicate flowers, ferns and great north country trees. Continue along the path towards the growing sound of falling water and you will come out on a large slab of bedrock. And there it is, right at your feet, the first drop of Breakwater Falls. A winding mossy path delivers you to the second drop. And then it's on to the third. Beyond the 3 drops of Breakwater Falls, the trail through Breakwater Gorge is an easy path along the river's edge. Keep an eye open for the high rock bluffs along the north side of the gorge. Very, very spectacular.
If you need directions to Breakwater Falls, look online at exploreflorencecounty.com. Directions are also in the brochure titled Guide to Waterfalls in Florence County. Or you can visit the Wild Rivers Interpretive Center in Florence and talk to staff about how to get there. Breakwater Falls is on a Wisconsin wild river. It's a rugged place, purposely left untouched to enhance your experience of wildness. It is well worth the hike. See it for yourself. It's well worth discovering.
John, thank you so much, and bravo. What an amazing film about an amazing, amazing place. I think you can probably, maybe you can see all the people cheering out in the audience.
Thank you, everybody.
Hands are moving. So thank you for reintroducing this place to the whole state. Thank you for introducing it to me and to so many who are watching today. While everyone out there types in their questions in the chat found in the bottom toolbar of your screen, I have a couple for you that you might be able to shed some light on. And one was kind of alluded to at the end of the film. Will more people coming to a place like this in Florence County, a wild place, will more people seeing it benefit it, or will it, does it put it at risk because there'll be so many more feet to trample and leave trash and all that other stuff?
Well, thanks, Raj. That's a really important question. I would go at that question by inviting you to read the language that was in the original 1965 Wild Rivers legislation. And it essentially says that the purpose for which Wisconsin established these rivers as wild rivers is to get more people from Wisconsin and more people from other states to come here. And that's the first part. But there's a second part. It says, and we want them to come here to these rivers and experience wildness. Well, that's a combination. That's a really tricky combination. And it takes a tricky plan. And I don't mean tricky by being deceptive. What I mean that it's a delicate dance and that it needs finesse and persistence to get right. And this bold Wisconsin experiment, Wild Rivers, that preceded and served as a model for the federal program, I think really put it right out there on the table and asked, is there an intrinsic value or intrinsic benefit to experiencing wildness that people will see and go to? And if so, we have set apart these rivers as special places. So the first challenge is, will people go there? And that's important challenge. And the second one is, can we, meaning the DNR managing the property, can they manage the property and the visitor load in a way that preserves the chance to experience wildness? And all I can say is that that was written and proposed and started to be worked on in 1965. And since then, there's been 55 years of experiencing it and working at it and getting the delicate dance right. So what is the evidence that increasing awareness of Breakwater Falls will not detract from the intimacy required to appreciate wildness? Well, it's there already. It's LaSalle Falls and Big Bull Falls and Jennings Falls and Myers Falls and Washburn Falls, all on the Pine and Popple rivers, where low impact, modest paths that were compatible with Wild Rivers legislation, they have worked. They're there, they have worked. I have canoed these rivers more than anyone, and I have trampled all over the near river parts of these Wild Rivers property, and my experience has been that access and use of, so far, has been managed in a way that does not interfere with the experiencing of wildness. So I'm hopeful. You can't tell the future, but I'm really hopeful that the Breakwater Falls will fit in and be enjoyed by people the way that all the other falls on these amazing rivers have been already.
Thank you, John. That is an important question, and it's of course one that River Alliance tries to balance and dance well as we work to protect a lot of these places across the state. It is a beautiful place, and it is a place where I think a lot of people are going to be making travel arrangements sooner rather than later to come see. And that's a good problem to have. How did Breakwater Falls get its name, John?
Well, that was almost that was a big part of the mystery of why it vanished even. And there's a number of reasons why it even vanished. When you vanish, you lose your name, and where it comes from again is the rediscovery part of it. How it vanished, well, first of all, this is the Northwoods, and there's a lot of remote places. And second, in 1920, the Pine Dam was built immediately upriver from the falls, and also built at that time, was the third of a mile downriver from the dam. At the end of the Breakwater Gorge was this hydroelectric generating station and diversion canal that brings water from the dam downriver to the generating station. Thus, all the water used to generate electricity is diverted around Breakwater Falls, and this was a relatively common way to build the projects, hydroelectric projects. But back in 1920, the public preference was likely to have been as much less electricity to be generated from this river as possible. So for Breakwater Falls, that meant that for much of the time, water flowing down the Pine River was diverted around the falls to get to the generators. And Breakwater Falls was, for all those years, essentially dewatered. And for much of the year, it was just a valley. It was no longer a waterfall until 1995. Public priorities changed, and keeping the fish that live in the gorge part of the river alive, that became a priority. And so from that point on, now through and continuing into the future, there's been a required amount of water released into the river and over Breakwater Falls all year long. And 75 years of absence, it's a long time for most people. We forget things, and sure enough, people had forgot the name of it. And it took me a number of years to find the name, the pre-existing name, Breakwater Falls. An old 1916 survey map that Bill Beverly sent to me, it was on there. And so that's where the name came from. It was a pre-existing name. Fortunately, we had a pre-existing name, because since then, everyone involved, myself and We Energies and Florence County and the DNR worked together to get the name accepted on the state and federal official registries of names and natural features. And this official registration means that it'll start showing up on maps. It took nearly 100 years, but Breakwater Falls, the 6th largest waterfall in Wisconsin, it's soon to appear on your maps and your guidebooks and your websites. So welcome it. It's a great access, a great to have it back in the state.
Well, we all owe you a big debt of gratitude to putting it back on the map. I have a question here from Joy, and a two-part question. First, is rafting possible down the falls? And then also, what is the community that's nearest to that southern entrance?
Rafting is possible, but these falls are rated class 4 to 5, and you have to be extremely careful at using them. You have to have the skill to use them. There is not a rafting company there that services those falls, but I have seen some people with rafts coming down river, never over the falls. There's only a few people in Wisconsin that have ever gone down over the falls at Breakwater, and they're expert kayakers. The community it's by is sort of the community of Florence County. There's the city of Florence up to the west, and the city of Aurora out to the east, and Goodman down south of that. But it is definitely in North Woods.
We have another question from Abe, and he's interested in learning about just, when did you first find it? And then what was the process of opening it up to the public, and who did you work with?
Well, actually, I just stumbled down there. I was about 2007 or so. I was canoeing, and I went down there in the gorge to look around, and I found it, and I thought, everybody knew about this, but they hadn't. And so the next step was like, well, golly, I'm going to tell everybody about it. And nobody knew about it. So it really became an effort to try to get more people knowing about it. And one at a time was a challenging thing. It's a lot of trips down there. And so things like this video are really the big effort to say, hey, this thing's up here and it's gorgeous. You can come and see it, and you can find out how to get to it on exploreflorencecounty.com. But the challenge and the discovery was just a whim to go down and see. I mean, like the video said, the portage went around and everybody went around, and I've been up on the portage trail and told people, well, have you seen the falls? Have you seen Breakwater Falls? And they say, no, I never heard of that. Where is it? And they're right there at the edge of the gorge looking, you could almost see it through the trees, and people weren't finding it. So it was really fun to show it to people. But I think I'd have to live a couple more lifetimes to show it to everybody. Yeah. And I was hoping that this video, as a winter project of mine, would help more people see it and enjoy it and appreciate what it was designated for as a wild rivers.
Well, we will do our part to try and make sure that more and more people see this beautiful place. And thanks to you, they're going to be able to. For those of you that hopped on a little bit late, Riverlines will be posting the link to this video and other resources, though some of them that have been listed today, some of them that Wendy from Florence County has included in the chat. We'll make sure you get all the information and can watch this at your leisure, because we share John's passion certainly for all of Wisconsin's beautiful places and are very eager to make sure everybody knows about Breakwater Falls. If you have additional questions, we've got a couple more minutes. Pop them into the chat, which you can find at the bottom of your screen in the toolbar. In the meantime, John, what is something that you hope, people who love our rivers, streams, and lakes across Wisconsin, how would you like them to get involved to make sure that we protect these places and that we showcase these places more?
I think you have to fall in love with a river, a section of river, a time of year, a place to visit. You need to champion. And my experience is that you really need to sort of accept that river and champion its causes, and whatever that is unique to each river. My experience for rivers is that the challenge that first comes up is usually visibility. I mean, people drive over bridges all the time, shoom, and they don't even notice the river's down there. And so it's in the backyards and in the valleys and stuff of our state. And visibility is an important one. But for these rivers up here, visibility is not the key issue. It is the acceptance that wildness is an intrinsic value, and coming to these rivers to embrace wildness and experience the benefit of being exposed to wildness. So it's really a different story up here than my experience in advocating for rivers elsewhere.
Well, we have probably one more question, maybe two. We'll try. Before we'll let folks go, fill up their cars and make their way to Breakwater Falls. But just what made this is from Chuck, what made these falls such a secret in the first place? Was it flooded, but like, how did it just drop out of our consciousness?
Well, there was interviews I did yesterday, Larry Mueller, and that you can get the full explanation there, and there'll be one Saturday with Dan Small. But essentially it is the river was dewatered. It was a priority back then. Everybody accepted it and embraced it as dewatered. And so it became a valley instead of a waterfall. And there are people who remember that around here. And it makes it hard to remember it as a waterfall if you hit and miss, go there, and there's no water. So that's the short story of how it disappeared.
Yeah. Well, we will follow up with everyone watching today and everyone who registered with links to that Larry Mueller interview and to other information that we talked about today, including where you can watch the film again and resources for getting up to Florence County to see this beautiful place, this amazing place. Please help River Alliance while you're at it, and encourage you all to get involved in our work to protect these places and to showcase the special places that folks like John and folks like all over the state are working really hard to protect. Go to wisconsinrivers.org, sign up for our newsletter and our action alerts, and if you want to chip in, we can always use the help. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day, and thank you, John, for making this possible.
Thank you, River Alliance. Very helpful. Thank you.
Bye-bye.